Hey everyone, off the Mike Sports Network here. The Ohio State Buckeyes are national champions. They win it all 34-23 over the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. This was, you know, for if you watch like the first, I'd say about 33, 34 minutes, that was about as dominant a performance as I have seen even after having to deal with the opening drive. I think it was like 18 plays, 75. It was one of Notre Dame punched Ohio State in the mouth, and then Ohio State proceeded to respond. They go up 31-7 in this game. And then Notre Dame all of a sudden is able to get back. They get a touchdown, they get a 2-point conversion, they get a fumble. Just a wild and crazy adventure to get to the end. And then it comes down to 31-23, third down. And 50, I think it was almost a 60-yard pass from Will Howard to Jeremiah Smith that effectively sealed the game. It was this zero blitz from Notre Dame. And Will Howard just made a great throw to Jeremiah Smith, the freshman sensation. And the Buckeyes win the whole thing, man. And this is what we talked about. And I've got to take one on the chin here. And I've got to say, I've got to say this, and I've said this for about a couple of weeks since we got to this point that Ohio State was going to be playing for a national title and being favored by almost 10 points. They were clearly the best team in college football, the most talented team in college football this season. They just had their own issues with themselves. Obviously, the slip up at Oregon early in the season where Will Howard mismanaged the clock. And then obviously the failure against Michigan, which goes without saying, it's the most watched video in the history of this channel. I wanted Ryan Day fired. And a lot of people in Columbus wanted Ryan Day fired. But what this run means for Ohio State and just Columbus and that community, Ryan Day is immortalized now as one of the great Ohio State coaches of all time. I'm not even exaggerating when I say that, because think about what this guy, they set a record, I think, for most top 25 wins. Like, think about what they had to do. They had to face a really decent SEC team in Tennessee, one of only 3 that made this tournament, beat them by a million, clobbered them in a half filled with rival people. Inside the shoe. You do that. You beat the number 1 team, Oregon, who beat you earlier in the season, hadn't lost a game all year, and you clobber them. Go up 34-0 in the Rose Bowl, which was thought to be the national championship game. You do that. You then beat Texas, who was the SEC runner-up this year, and you beat them effectively in a road game in Arlington. And then this one, you face the most resilient, hard-nosed bunch, a team that had not lost since September, had won 13 consecutive games, something like that, and is coached by one of your own, the sentimental favorite Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And you do all of that to win a national title after you lost to your rival in the most disappointing result in the history of this program. If that isn't accomplishing something, I don't know what is. We all owe Ryan Day an apology. And frankly, he's a made man now. He has won a national title. I know there's going to be some people that disagree with me saying he's got to beat Michigan. People forget he did beat Michigan. He has just lost 4 in a row. And this last one in particular is going to be tough to swallow because, hey, that's the worst Michigan team probably in the last 10 or so years. But look what happened out of it. It might have been the greatest loss that this program has ever had. They didn't have to go play a Big Ten championship game. They were licking their wounds. Everybody was doubting them at the end of this whole thing. And some people were picking Tennessee to beat Ohio State in that opener. And then they just rolled off for the more impressive wins, one of the most impressive runs to the end of the season that we've ever seen. And this is what the 12-team playoff is all about. Giving teams opportunities. Yes, the best teams are going to be rewarded, but also in the previous iteration of this playoff, Ohio State would not have had the ability to make this run. So in some respect, this has allowed Ryan Day a reprieve. And if you don't like Ryan Day, look, I was looking at it from the lens of you've got to beat Michigan. And I didn't know if Ohio State was going to be mentally able to overcome that kind of a defeat in their own building against their rival and come back from that. But they did. And that needs to be commended and Ryan Day needs to be commended for doing that and recognizing and getting a hard reset on this and having to overcome some adversity and, having to, like, persevere through some tough challenges and some tough, mistakes that happened throughout the season. And, you know, frankly, really all that he has got to do now, he's won a national title. All he's really got to do, go beat Michigan next year, and Michigan's going to be much better. And it's almost like you get somewhat of a reprieve, because listen, the big thing with John Cooper, and John Cooper's a big name that came up with Ryan Day. John Cooper didn't win a national title. He didn't. Jim Tressel did. Okay? So to be in that classification now as a national championship at the Ohio State University, that means something. And it's not like they got this cheap. They did it the hard way. They lost to their rival. There's still, Michigan fans are going to still get up in my mention saying, the Ohio State lost to Michigan. Michigan's their daddy. Ohio State still won the damn national championship, and they had to fight from behind the eight ball, really. Like I said, Tennessee, when half your stadium's filled up with Tennessee fans and you mop the floor with them. Oregon in the Rose Bowl, that game wasn't even competitive. And then Texas, like I said, I expected them to beat Texas, but still that was effectively a road playoff game almost. And then this game against Notre Dame, Notre Dame's the sentimental favorite. Notre Dame comes out 7-0 with a near 10-minute drive, 18 plays, 75 yards. And then they still came back and scored 31 unanswered points. Yes, we can talk about how this was more of a nail biter than it should have been, but that's a credit to Notre Dame for being able to persevere. And they made some plays to get back into this game. Ohio State kind of took their foot off the gas, but listen, we all owe Ryan Day an apology. He deserves all the credit. He is now an Ohio State legend in my eyes, because yeah, you can put the asterisk of, hey, he lost to Michigan. They won the national title, beating a bunch of really good teams by a lot of points. They won all 4 of these games with that late cover for those people in Vegas, that late field goal. They won every single game in this playoff by double digits. Every single one. All of them. Like, think about that. I listed Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, and Notre Dame. All these were considered 4 of the 12 best teams in college football. And Ohio State won each one of these games, no matter how arduous or, like, how much of an adventure it was to get. They won them all by double digits. All of them. If that doesn't tell you the kind of coach Ryan Day is, I don't know what doesn't tell you that. Like, I have done a complete 180 in the span of 2 months on this guy. And that really shows you the mental fortitude of a head coach like him, like a guy who's really got one of the highest winning percentages in the history of the sport, in the history of college football. And four of his most significant losses have come to his biggest rival. And the worst one ever, he came back and won a national title. Like I said, you have got to respect the game there with that guy, because that is as big of an accomplishment as I've ever seen. And credit to this team, credit to Will Howard, who had to overcome some adversity, Emeka Ibuka, Jack Sawyer. A lot of these guys, JT Tuimoloau, like Caleb Downs comes over, Quinshon Judkins had a great game, Travion Henderson's been there for a while, like, and of course Jeremiah Smith. The kid's not even old enough to drink, and this guy could easily be the number 1 pick in the draft, maybe the next couple of seasons. He's still got 2 years of eligibility until he can actually leave to go to the NFL. Like, this was a talented team, but to go through that adversity and not put your head down and actually be able to come back out better on the other side and win a national title, given where this team was at the end of November to January 20th when we were recording this, that is an awesome, awesome achievement for Ryan Day. And whether you love him or you don't, you have to give that guy his props for pulling this thing out. So, Buckeye Nation, congratulations. Columbus, my relatives, a lot of my family members are alumni, live in the Columbus area. This is an awesome, awesome moment for that city and for that community, that campus community. It's a rich tradition in football. Everything paid off, even with some of the tumultuous weeks that followed around this team. They came through, they pulled it out, and good for them. I'm very proud of this group. And you know what, like I said, as a guy who loves this team and understands the tradition that goes with the Ohio State University, yes, it sucks that they lost to Michigan, okay? And it pains me to have to say that, but I got to respect it. they still won the national title, and they were in a position to do that because of what they did on the field. And they got a reprieve because of this thing expanded. So you got to thank the 12-team expansion as well, because it gave us a great rest of the tournament. The first round games weren't great, but they got the on-campus field. In a large way, this playoff was somewhat of a success. I mean, the format kind of sucks, but I still really think what was accomplished by this Ohio State team is also a testament to the fact that they did actually expand this thing, because this would not have been possible a year ago. So congratulations to Ryan Day and the Ohio State University. Amazing stuff. Shout out to Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman. They're going to be back. Like this was an amazing run for them to be even competitive in this after the way the way that thing snowballed on them really quickly. Notre Dame's going to be there for a while. They're in good hands with a Buckeye at heart in Marcus Freeman. So great national title game. The college football season's over. We'll see how the transfer portal and all this NIL stuff goes, because the big topic of discussion, hey, Ohio State paid $20 million for the rosters. Like, guys, everybody's doing that now. Don't complain about it. They won, and their coach earned this accolade on his resume to become a national championship at one of the most historic institutions in college football. So I'll talk to you guys real soon about this. We'll have a lot more in terms of the wrap up of this and the aftermath of this. And then you would go into the NFL draft, a lot of stuff moving forward, and also the NFL playoffs winding down as well. I'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.